professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon, and then I post these things up to YouTube and not YouTube, Facebook and social media and Patreon and all that sort of good stuff. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom shakalaka done. I'd like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. They are international. They are everywhere in the world. So if you need to get to a therapist, go to BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. Hi, everybody. There's 40,000 therapists working for them. I've gotten really good feedback from the people using them. So thank you, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. Okay, so it's 99 degrees in Gilbert. Oh my God. I think John and I are going to go look for property up north because holy cow. Because yeah, I cannot do another summer of 115. I just can't, and I won't, and don't make me. So, yeah, so we're going to do that. So anyway, let's see, current events. So the next meet and greet will be in 2 weeks. Yeah. Not this weekend, the following weekend in Charleston on May 4th. The week after that will be May 11th in Raleigh. If you want to get tickets, go to chrisgodinez.com and look at appearances, and it will have all the upcoming meet and greets. So anyway, it's great meeting you guys. It's so much fun. I really enjoy it. And Houston was awesome. That was fantastic. So anyway, thanks you guys for showing up, and I really appreciate it. So the current event today, I was reading in the AP. So last week I talked about the homeless. This week, what I read is that Florida has passed a law basically banning cities and towns and counties from providing or making it a law that outdoor workers get water breaks, or shade. And basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to go after the quote unquote migrant population, but really who is this going to affect? It's going to affect all the construction workers. It's going to affect the people that are doing the road work. It's going to affect the people, it's going to affect the migrants too. But it's like, they're so stupid. Because here's the deal. Last summer in Phoenix alone, speaking of insane heat, I think they counted over 400 people dying of heat-related deaths because they died from dehydration, they died from overheating, strokes, heart attack as a result of, etc. And if you've got construction workers working in the insane heat in any of the southwestern states, all of these southwestern states are starting to pass laws like that. And I'm just like, y'all are cutting off your nose to spite your face, you dumbass. So it's going to affect anyone who works outside. That means road workers, that means construction workers, that means, landscapers, that means, everything. So if your state is doing stupid things, please get a hold of your representatives, get a hold of state representatives, and start complaining, because this is really stupid. They're really going to harm themselves, because let me tell you something. I know construction workers. They're not going to put up with it. I know road workers. They're not going to put up with it. So it's like the states think that they're being tough, or, we're going to do by denying water. Really? In a desert that has 115 degrees on up in the summertime? Are you kidding me? Or Florida, where it's like super humid and can get up to 90 or 100 degrees. I mean, I just can't even. Anyway, contact your representatives, because I think this is a disaster and it's hurting people. It's not okay. So people who work outside, and I don't care what their job is, I don't care if they're picking crops or whether they're doing road work or whether they're doing construction, they're human beings, and they deserve shade, and they deserve water breaks, and they deserve water. Period. That is a basic human thing. So for states to start doing that, they're dehumanizing people. Not okay. Gee, I wonder who else dehumanizes people. Could it be, I don't know, narcissists, you think? Maybe? Just a little? So, anyway, things to think about. All right, today's topic. Will I fall for another narcissist? If you do the work, hopefully the answer is no, okay? So let's talk about the dangers of FOG, fear, obligation, guilt. the danger of not growing up your inner child, okay? And the danger of cognitive dissonance, okay? So first of all, let's hit the family of origin. So we tend to go to what we are familiar with, unfortunately. And so that little kid inside of us, if they have not been worked on, if we have not done the Inner Child Workbook, or by Catherine Taylor, or the one by Lucia Cappuccioni, which I think is Regaining Your Inner Child. So the Inner Child Workbook by Catherine Taylor does the whole experiential thing. She has you rock yourself as a baby, play on the floor as a toddler, smear, applesauce in your hair, that kind of thing. And to try to unlock some of those memories, because sometimes the abuse happens before we're verbal. So if we have not worked on that, whatever age we were, listen to me now, believe me now, whatever age we were is what our inner child is going to present as when we were abused. And it's going to look outside of ourselves and go, oh, hey, somebody who kind of sort of reminds me of this caregiver over here that, abused me. I know if I can make that person over there love me, I prove that caregiver wrong, which is a recipe for disaster of epic proportions. So it's really important to work on that inner child. And the abuse can be anything. It can be verbal, it can be emotional, it can be sexual, it can be religious, it can be whatever. So abuse affects us. Abuse stunts us, basically, because whatever age we were when all that crap started happening and we started making decisions about who we are as a human being, and we started going, ooh, I'm not good enough. Ooh, I'm not good enough. Ooh, I'm not good enough. Oh, God, that's the age we get stuck at. And that's the age that we keep trying to heal or to fix or to change or to whatever. So, super important to work on your inner children, because it can be different ages. It can be different types of abuse, or maybe a different person was abusing or whatever. Or we get stuck in the teenage years. That often happens because that's often when our abusers come unglued and are like, how dare you? How dare you have your own opinion? How dare you have your own thoughts and beliefs, and they're not mine, and how dare you? Because remember, abusers have very black and white thinking, and they cannot stand it when somebody doesn't agree or think the way they do. Everybody has to think the way they do, or they get pissed. They get frightened, actually, and then they get pissed. You show me somebody who's angry all the time, I'll show you somebody who's afraid. 100%. But when we're kids, we don't know that. All we see is the anger. We're not recognizing that the reason they're huffing and puffing and threatening to blow the house down is because they're quaking inside. So that's the nice thing. As we grow up and we kind of do our studying and reading up on this stuff, we realize, oh, they're not as powerful as they like to make us think they are. So the inner child is super important to address. You cannot ignore that. If you ignore the inner child, if you ignore the abuse that you had from your family of origin, because I've had a lot of people go, oh, but I don't want to think about it and I don't want to deal with it. Okay, it's still there. Whether you think about it and deal with it consciously, subconsciously, it's still there. So you might as well grab that bull by the horn, wrench its neck, tan its hide, eat its meat, use the bones for soup, and be done with it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is your time. This is your time to be brave. It really is. And working on yourself is the bravest thing you can do, because you're helping those terrified little kids inside of you grow up. So mirror work is hugely important in this, okay? So, hi, good to see you. Have a great day. I give you permission to be brave. And then walk out. Do that for a couple of weeks. Like, that's all I want you to do. And at night, don't forget to do the same thing, but this time you're going to say, hi, good to see you. Here are 3 things you did right today. Because one of the things that trips us up with going back to an abuser is that low self-esteem. So, okay, so we've kind of covered the inner child stuff and why this is so important. And the mirror work is really kind of speaking to that inner child. You look at yourself the way that you wished an adult had looked at you as a kid with love, with kindness, with caring, with excitement. It's like, oh my God, it's you. Holy cow, I'm so glad to see you. Cannot wait to play. This is going to be so much fun, and that's how we should be talking to ourselves, okay? And if we have a healthy adult in our life, that is how we talk to ourselves. If, however, we had an adult in our life that was harsh, mean, critical, nasty, vicious, etc., we talk to ourselves the way they talk to us. How adults talk to us, I'm going to say it, how adults talk to us becomes our inner critic. So if our abusers were abusive, if our parents were abusive, their way of speaking to us becomes our inner critic. If our parents were healthy and kind and gentle and loving and supportive, that becomes our inner cheerleader, which is the way it should be. But not all of us were that lucky to have healthy parents. So the point being is, you gotta work on that inner child. So let's transfer this over now to the self-esteem part of it. So the inner child, the child did not get validation. We didn't get validation, guys. Our abusers were constantly telling us we were wrong, and they were gaslighting us, okay? Parents, starting with the parents that were abusive and on to the romantic partners, okay? So they do the gaslighting. Like, up is down, left is right, green is yellow, you're wrong, I'm right, that whole thing. And so they would gaslight us. So we started losing touch with our instincts, okay? So it's really, really important. If you never want to date another one of these jackwagons, get in touch with your gut. Your gut will not lie to you. Now, your head and your heart are going to lie to you like nobody's business. They're going to be like, well, yes, but, and no, but, and let me tell you the story, and well, what about this, and what about that? No. Gut is just a simple yes or no answer to a yes or no question. That's it. So you ask your gut something yes or no. Is this person safe? Yes or no. No story. There's no story involved. So if suddenly story starts popping up, I can guarantee you're either in your head or you're in your feelings, okay? No. We're going to go with the gut. So you start with something that you already know, okay? You start with something that you know for sure that you already know. So for me, I hate peanut butter. So if I ask my gut, do you hate peanut butter? I get this visceral reaction like, oh my God, yeah, I don't like peanut. No, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So I know that that's my no answer. My yes answer, okay, do I like Reese's peanut butter cups? Ooh, yeah. No story, just yeah or no, So you start practicing with that. And the reason that we don't listen to our gut is because our abusers, our parents, have basically lied to us, gaslit us. We saw what the issue was. No kid doesn't know that there's something wrong with their family. Trust me on that. When I was little, I knew. It's like I knew solid. Sun comes up in the east, sets in the west. Something's wrong with dad, right? So I knew it. But my mom, my siblings, etc., would sit there and go, oh no, dad's fine. Everything's fine. No, dad's fine. No, dad's okay. No, dad's normal. No, every dad does that. And I knew that was not normal. So they normalize abuse, and they normalize telling us that we do not see the pink elephant taking a crap in the corner of the living room. So we start not trusting our guts, which is where we get into trouble with abusers, because they come in and they start gaslighting and they start doing that, and we start doubting ourselves, as opposed to, no, that is what it is. I know that it is what it is. I have certainty, which is part of self-esteem. So certainty and self-esteem are connected, okay? So you got to work on your certainty. You got to work on the self-esteem. So this all, trusting the gut, listening to your gut, certainty. I know what I know that I know. Like rock solid, like nobody can take that from me. But what happens with us is we get into the whole self-doubt because of the gaslighting, because of the lying, because of constantly being told, no, you don't see the pink elephant taking a crap in the corner of the living room. Yeah, actually, I do. So I will never forget when I had to confront one of my sisters, and I told her about the abuse that my dad was doing, and she literally point blank said, no, he didn't. And I stopped her, like, stop and I mean it. Yeah, he did. And you cannot tell me otherwise because you weren't there. I know what he did, period. And she backed down, you know. But it's very disheartening when someone you were hoping would hear you invalidates you. So that's why having certainty is so incredibly important in your healing journey, to make sure that you're not going to date another one of these jackwagons, okay? So work on the Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. The Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. You're going to double that up with more mirror work. So in the mirror work, it's going to be, hi, good to see you. Have a great day. You know what? I know what I know. And I know that I know what I know, you know? And then you walk out. So you start doing that every day. And pretty soon you start realizing you do know what you know. So nobody gets to tell you what happened to you. Nobody. And abusers love to try to tell us what happened to us. They love to be like, oh, that's not what happened. That's not how you feel. Nobody gets to tell you how you feel. Nobody. And if they do, that's when you find the nearest exit, you give them the middle finger, and you run. Do not walk to the nearest exit and get the hell out. Because you're dealing with somebody who's trying to manipulate, control, etc., etc., etc. So, all right. Self-Esteem Workbook, Glenn Schiraldi. Work on the self-esteem. Certainty comes from self-esteem. That's why I keep saying, if you work on the self-esteem, most of this other stuff will fall into place. The separate part of that is working on the inner child, okay? So let's talk about the fear, obligation, and guilt. So that kind of connects with the inner child, because how do abusers control? Because remember, this is all about control. This is about manipulation and control. So basically, they control through fear, they control through obligation, and they control through guilt, okay? So they make us fearful. They're going to hurt us. They're going to harm us. They're going to punish us. They're going to, whatever. They're going to make us feel obligated. Now, those are usually the covert narcissists that do that. So it's usually the whole, look at what I've done for you, and you don't do anything for me, and you owe me. Oh my God. You will find that especially in the collapsing narcissists as they age. Even though they've abdicated being a parent, even though they've abdicated being, a mom or a dad, they will still tell you, oh, you owe me. I gave birth to you. So what? You weren't there for the next, 18 years, so go screw yourself. You know what I'm saying? So you absolutely want to watch out for the fear, the obligation, and the guilt. Okay, so obligation, I do all of this for you, you do nothing for me, you owe me. Guilt is trying to shame you. So it should be FOZ instead of fog, but fog makes more sense. So it's guilt. It's shame. So it's fear, obligation, guilt, but the guilt is really shame. So they're trying to shame you. You should feel shameful is really what they mean when they say guilty. You should feel shameful for XYZ, not paying enough attention to me, not spending every waking moment with me, not giving me all your money, not, whatever. So they're trying to shame. So the fear, obligation, and guilt, and boy howdy, that hooks right into that inner child, which is why it's hugely important. Work on the inner child, work on the self-esteem, okay? And, okay, so we talked about gaslighting, we talked about fear, obligation, guilt. So CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving, Pete Walker. Hand this stuff back to them. The codependency. This is another thing that will trip us up and get us to go with another abuser if we're not careful, is the codependency. So CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker, and Facing Codependency by Pia Melody, okay? So what ends up happening for a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us, is that we were raised by dysfunctional families. And so in that dysfunctional family, we became parentified. We became the parents, and we had to take care of whoever our abusers were. So it teaches us to be codependent. It teaches us to fix everybody and make everybody happy and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what we quickly learn is you can't make an abuser happy, They are dedicated. Let me be clear about this. They are dedicated to being miserable. They are. And specifically, even if you do something that is the correct solution and will improve the situation, they'll tell you it's the wrong one and it's not good enough. So you've really, really, really got to not, how do I explain this? Stop trying to fix everybody. It's not your job. It's not your job. And with a narcissist, you will never, ever make them happy. Ever. They just will never, ever be happy. So stop wanting to fix people. Now, is it nice to think that everyone would be fixed and you can help them and everything would be good? Yes, it is. It is nice to think that, but it's not going to happen because narcissists do not want to be fixed. And most trolls are narcissists. They're absolutely abusive, 110%. And they don't want to change. They don't want to be different. They don't want to, narcissists don't ever want to get better. They don't, because they're more interested in harming, hurting, devaluing, putting down, etc., in order to prop up their very fragile ego. So what you're going to do is you're going to work on that codependency. It is not your job. So maybe something to do to help with that is to write a letter to all of the people that you so desperately want to fix, but they never get better. And it's not because of you. Let's be clear. They're choosing to stay sick. They're choosing to stay unhealthy. They are choosing to be abusive. They are choosing to continue this particular behavior because it's a payoff for them. What's the payoff? Well, the payoff is they get to prop up their very fragile ego and they get to hurt somebody. And usually they're sadists. So they enjoy hurting. They enjoy harming. They enjoy inflicting emotional or physical pain. So what you're going to do is you're going to write a letter, a goodbye letter to them. Dear whoever, dear abuser, dear mom and dad, dear ex, dear whatever. It is not my job to fix you. Why? Because I did not break you. The only one who can fix you is you by choosing different behavior. So guess what? I quit. I resign. The pay sucks. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done. Bye-bye. Go pound sand. You do not get to live in my head rent-free one more second. And you trot it out to the barbecue and you burn it and you let it go. And then you've got to catch yourself. So it's mindfulness. There are tons of great workbooks on mindfulness. I strongly suggest you get one and start doing the exercises in it because it's really important for us to really catch the inner child when it pops up, or that desire to fix somebody when it pops up, or, oh my gosh, I'm going into the fog. Now back to cognitive dissonance. So when we get into the fog, the reason it's called the fog, fear, obligation, guilt, okay? The reason it's called the fog is because it creates cognitive dissonance. We know what we know, right? But we're not certain that we know what we know. And so then the abuser comes in and says, you don't know that. And then we go, but I do. No, you don't. But there's a pink elephant. No, there isn't. Okay. And then pretty soon we stop seeing the pink elephant taking a crap in the corner of the living room. So then later on, when our friends and family start going, hey, I don't like this guy or girl that you're dating. They're really abusive. We go, no, they're not. No, they're not. Because we've got this cognitive dissonance going on. Our abuser is telling us that they're not abusive when they are. And they're telling us that we don't know what we know when we do, and we start doubting ourselves, and then that kicks us into that cognitive dissonance. So literally, incoming information does not match what we want to be true. And so we kick out the incoming information as opposed to using logic and critical thinking and going, wait a minute, there is definitely a pink elephant taking a crap in the corner of the living room. This person is lying to me about it. What's the game? Do you see where I'm going with that? So working on that cognitive dissonance, working on your certainty, it's all interconnected. The inner child, the self-esteem, the cognitive dissonance, the certainty, the everything is all interconnected. And it really boils down to self-esteem. So you get that rock solid. It is unlikely that you're going to get with another abuser. But what ends up happening is if we don't work on any of this stuff, inner child picks the next person, Picker's broken. Picker is being picked by a 4-year-old. You do not want your 4-year-old picking your next person. You do not. Or however old you were when you were being abused. You don't want that. You want adult you to pick the next person, not little kid you that's trying to fix it. Does that make sense? You also want to be standing in your power, and you want to be standing in your certainty. So you know what you know that you know, and nobody can tell you otherwise. You do not get to tell me what I'm feeling. No, thank you. So seriously, I mean, I've dealt with narcissists, trust me, in my profession that have tried to tell me what I was thinking or feeling. And I was like, yeah, no, you don't get to tell me what I'm thinking and feeling. And they're, what? You know, because they're not used to people standing up to them. They're used to people cowering and getting upset and crying and, you know, everything else. And this is why I'm saying they're cowards. They're absolute cowards. So really, it's standing up for yourself. And as soon as you start standing up for yourself, they will go seek somebody that's easier to pick on. Trust me on that. If you're not playing their game, if you're not playing their histrionic game, if you're not doing the fighting with them over every little thing, if you're gray rocking them and you're moving on with your life, they'll go find somebody that's willing to play their sick little games. So, in order to keep yourself safe, you got to do the work. There's no substitute for it. I know lots of people are like, well, I just want an easy button. Lord, don't we all? It would be nice. It would be nice if we had an easy button. But here's my recommendation. Get with a damn good trauma therapist. Get with somebody who understands narcissistic abuse. Get the books I recommend. Start with the self-esteem workbook. Now, we talked about last week how some people kind of freak out about that because they're like, well, who am I if I'm not traumatized? Who am I if I'm not constantly scrambling to be loved? That's what you get to find out. And that's why it's good to have a therapist to kind of hold your hand and be like, you're okay. This is normal. Everything you're thinking and feeling is okay and it's normal, and you will get through this and you get to figure out who you are. And that's a celebration. That's not a scared thing. That's a celebration. So you got to start changing the way you think about things. You deserve to be treated with respect by everybody, whether they're a romantic partner, a boss, a coworker, whatever. You do not put up with disrespect from anybody. So you write out your list of deal breakers. What are you never, ever going to put up with again? Okay? You write that out. The second anybody crosses any of those, be done. Like seriously, like, okay, you've shown me who you are. Thanks for playing. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. And then you leave. Okay? So, dating. Okay? A lot of survivors tell me I'm never dating again, which I totally and completely understand. It's a terrifying thought to put yourself back out there and possibly get involved with another one. But if you arm yourself with the work that you've done with your therapist, working on the trauma, CPTSD from surviving to thriving, Pete Walker, handing that trauma back to them. You know, it's like, okay, you jerk, I didn't deserve this. This is you. Everything you said, everything you did tells me everything I need to know about you, and it says nothing about me. 100%. How other people act, how other people behave, tells me everything I need to know about them. Even if they're trying to direct stuff at me, it's kind of like, wow, there's only one type of person on the face of this planet that would say something like that. Okay, thank you for showing me who you are. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. So it's really, really important to do the CPTSD from surviving to thriving. It is triggering. It is. You're going to get activated. You are, because it's going to bring up all this stuff. But here's the way to look at it. It's like cleaning out a wound, okay? You can't just kind of cover it up and hope that it gets better. You got to get in there, get all the crap out, get all the dirt out, get all the nasty stuff out, pack it with some good antiseptic or whatever, antibacterial, make sure it's clean, and you start working on healing it. That's kind of what we have to do mentally. Or another analogy I like to use, it's like cleaning out a horse stall. You can't start doing work with a horse if you got a dirty horse stall. You got to get down to the nice clean floor. So you got to shovel all that crap out. And believe me, it is all horse crap that they've done to us, 110%. So you hand back all the stuff that belongs to them. None of this was about you. None of their nastiness, none of their name calling, none of their viciousness, none of their put downs, none of their ignoring, it was all about them. It was not about you. It was about them. So you hand that back to them. You know, dear so-and-so, here's all your luggage. I am not carrying it for you anymore. Secondly, I don't have to heal you. It's not my job. I don't get paid enough. The benefits suck. There's no vacation. Thank you. Write a resignation letter. Read Facing Codependency by Pia Mellody. CPTSD, From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. Then you start working on your self-esteem. Hi, good to see you. Have a great day. I give you permission to like yourself. I give you permission to trust your gut. And then walk out. And so that's Glenn Schiraldi, right? The Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. And you work on those little ones inside of you. You work on all the ages that you were hurt. So there's several ages, you know, depending on if the abuser stuck around, you know. So for me personally, with my dad, there were several little ones that needed to help growing up, you know, because he was harmful at different stages of my development. So you work on that. So that is either Regaining the Inner Child by Lucia Cappuccioni, which is more working with the dominant hand as the adult, the non-dominant hand as the child, or the experiential one, which is the Catherine Taylor one, the Inner Child Workbook. So there is that. All right, my loves. So that is how to not date another narcissist. Are you going to date again? Yes, at some point. But you got to make sure that you've done the work first. It's not going to be in the first probably 2 years. So you're going to leave the abuser. Now, this is something else that people bring up is they're like, oh my God, I'm lonely. Okay, so think of it kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous. Are you too hungry? Are you angry? Are you lonely? Or are you tired? Because that's going to get you into trouble. So lonely is when we've abandoned ourselves. When we are working on ourselves, we are reconnecting with ourselves. And once we really reconnect with ourselves, you'll never be lonely again because you got you. Like seriously, like 100%. Like there's a t-shirt that says something like, you know, I'm in private practice, so if you see me talking to myself, I'm having a meeting or something like that. So it's got, you know, I'm getting expert advice or something like that. So it's like learning to trust yourself. So you don't want to start dating again until you've worked with a therapist, you've done the workbooks several times. And when I say several times, it's like you finish it, you go back through to the beginning and you do it again until you know this stuff inside and out. If somebody acts too familiar, if somebody says something too familiar, if somebody crosses over one of those deal breakers, run. Do not walk to the nearest exit because you're dealing with somebody who's abusive. So basically, you will not date another narcissist if, caveat, you do the work. You get with a therapist, work the workbooks, do the mirror work, do the journaling, write the goodbye letters, write the go screw you letters, do you see where I'm going with that? And really process, get that horse stall clean. Okay? All right. Do we have questions, sir?
There is one question.
All right.
It is, excuse me, after a narc lost everything and lost everyone and ends up alone as no one is talking to them anymore, how will they cope? Would they try to hoover previous targets or look for a new supply? Okay,
so after a narcissist has lost everything, nobody's dealing with them anymore, everybody's done with their doo-doo, right? How do they cope? So this is why I'm saying, do not be surprised. Oh, my lip is bleeding. See, I had a cold sore. Sorry. Just decided to split open on air. Yay! So I hate cold sores and I tend to get them. Okay. So if a narc is alone and they've lost everyone, everyone's gone. Everyone's done with their stuff. They're finished. Done. Okay. What they will do is they will go back through their little black book, which I'm sure the younger people are like, what's a black book? So they'll go back through their list of people, okay, that they've dated in the past, and they will start calling people. Like literally, I've had people 20 and 30 years out get a phone call. I know. You would think after 20 or 30 years that it'd be done. No. When they have run out of supply, they'll go back to previous supplies, 110%. So yeah, was that the only question? So usually when they can, they'll go back to a previous supply. If they can't, they become a collapsed narcissist. And oh boy, howdy, they're awful. Collapsed narcissists you'll usually find in the old age homes. They are nasty, vicious, angry, miserable, want to punish. And so they take it out on the staff, which I'm just like, they're there to help you, you old coot. So yeah, they're not nice. They if they cannot get supply, the first thing they'll do is they'll go back through and start contacting all the old girlfriends or boyfriends. They'll go back through and try to get somebody, and they'll hope that enough time has passed that you're going to be like, oh, maybe it'll be different this time. No. It'll never be different. No, they will do the same thing all over again. It might take them a little bit of time, but once they got you, oh yeah, it'll start up all over again. If they cannot get supply, those are the ones you usually find in the old age homes. They're just bitter. Ooh, God, bitter, nasty, mean, vicious. Just, they can't, there's no filter. They're losing their ability. How do I explain this? They're losing their ability to hold the mask up. And so the mask slips really easily because they're not getting narcissistic supply. And remember, when you're dealing with an abuser, when you're dealing with a narcissist, you're dealing with somebody who's acting on maybe an 18-month-old to a 2-year-old emotional level. Now, that does not mean feel sorry for them because they're kids. They're not. Think of them as 18-month to 2-year-old psychopaths, basically. And they are vicious and mean and angry and nasty, and they'll spit and bite and chew and do whatever they need to get their needs met. So you avoid. So there is that. Okay, so I think that's it. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to call it good for today. Next week, let me think. What do we want to talk about?
Did you just mention a book? Somebody said, what's the name of that book again?
Oh, which one? Oh, good God. Okay, so let me go back through the books again. CPTSD, From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. Excellent book. Get it, read it. Facing Codependency by Pia Melody. Great book. Inner Child Workbook or Regaining the Inner Child. So the Inner Child Workbook is by Catherine Taylor. Regaining the Inner Child is by Lucia Capaccioni. And the Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiralda. Lucia Capaccioni. I always think of cappuccino. If you just put C-A-P-P in the Google, it'll, Lucia Capaccioni. Lucia is L-U-C-I-A. Let me see if I can spell her last name. Capaccioni is C-A-P-P-A-C-H-I-O-N-E, I think. So, anyway, that is it. Also, another book that I thought you guys would really like, we're reading it right now. It's Will Wheaton. Get Will Wheaton's book called Still Just a Geek. He's done an annotated version, so he's updated it kind of thing. But he talks in there about his family and what he had to put up with. And John, as we're reading it, he'll stop and he'll be like, oh, that sounds like your mom and dad. And I'm like, oh, yes, it does. So it's a really good book. And he's just so funny and so good. And it's validating and sad to know that I'm not alone. You know what I'm saying? And I really am happy for him writing that book because I think it's helped people that have gone through abuse from a parent. So if you have gone through abuse from a parent, get his book and read it. It's about his life. It's about what he's gone through. It's really good. He's really funny. And he talks about, all the stuff he had to put up with as a child star and, growing up in the public eye and all of that stuff. And then dealing with his stage mom and dealing with his dad who could never accept or love him, which, I think a lot of us have had to put up with. So anyway, that's it. Also the Steve Martin documentary, really good. All right, my loves, I will talk to you next week. You guys be good, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.